So let's see our options in 3, 2, 1. Wow, man, this is crazy.
Dude, this looks really good.
Now, yours is really good. Yours is really good. Yours is really good. Okay, so let's take an in-depth look and break down each of these presentation boards. So this was the original board that we were sent. To be honest, I liked individual images, but my version was this version right here, which, I don't know, I thought it was a cleaner version.
Yeah, I think the initial board wasn't that bad, to be honest. We received a lot of applicants. Steven and I, we went through every single one of them. Yeah. It was hard to pick the 3 that we were going to analyze per video. It wasn't bad, but we saw potential. And I think, well, Steven, I'm going to comment the first thing that from your board is that it has a type of balance, like hierarchy, that I kind of haven't seen it before, and I really liked it. The way that you put the horizontal image on the top, it created some impact that it made me want to dive deeper into the board, actually.
Yeah, well, it was super tricky, because the renders were really good. I mean, if we zoom in into the old presentation boards, these were really good images and really high quality. But when I saw it from afar, it was just like too heavy. And when the person put some text on top right here, it was kind of hard to understand like the quality of the renders, the architecture itself. I think this image was kind of redundant. It didn't say as much as these other 2 images. And these drawings, some of them were heavy visually for me, and some of them weren't as important. Like, to be honest, in ideas competition boards, I would not try to include each type of drawing just because, but just leave it to the essential drawing. So for example, when I put my original presentation board, I thought, all right, so let's just create a banner of renders, and for the actual drawings, let's desaturate them so the highlight color could only be the yellow that's in the renders, and try to kind of like leave a grid. I have a grid right here, so kind of like leave a simple grid where I could organize my images and my blocks of images. So here I have the facades, the site plan, the ad cinemetrics, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to I think I just organized it much more, and these 2 images, these 2 renders, I just merged them. So when you see it from afar, you think it's only one render, but I have a frontal facade and this perspective one.
The title was placed brilliantly there. You use that the void space to kind of include and make it really stand out as a title, as the theme that set the board. And I agree with you, man. I think especially the colors that this person used on the drawings, like the orangey, reddish, yellowish type of color. It hurts more than it helps, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the drawings were good. I mean, if you zoom into the drawings, they're really good, but sometimes color distracts it too much. And if we have a lot of color, we don't know where to center our eyes. So here, I thought the only thing that should have color should be these yellow things. But yeah, that was my proposal. And now let's take a look at yours.
Cool, let's do it. Honestly, man, I had a really hard time with this one. Amongst all of the entries that we picked, it took me longer to figure this one out, and it wasn't properly done. But let me comment the things that I thought could have been improved. Well, as I said, I think this is not my best work, I would say, but I agree with you that the images, they were very strong as they were, and especially with all the colors that he already had, and then adding orangey text on the sky, and even the sky was very vibrant and polluted. So I tried to make the sky much simpler, broke down the text into 2 columns because I thought one single column is hard to read, and you're gonna see that on the other boards. That this is a topic that I always tried to tackle. Brought the concept diagrams here with this first impression of the board. The original one, it was always scattered out in the middle here. It felt a bit out of place. So I brought both the concept and the site plans here, and I think this would in some sense be themed as the introductory part of the board, so that you took a look at it from far away, like concept and site plan and then a general photo. And I also agree with you that the other rendering was a bit redundant, but not to be too different from the original proposal. I tried to stick with it, but I removed the other elevations and sections and remained with just one.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to highlight, because I had trouble trying to decide if we should, leave the 2 elevations plus the section plus the 2 floor plans. I thought it was just a lot, and it didn't actually, add more value. I think when we're talking about presentation boards, we just don't have to have drawings just because, but we have to ask ourselves, is this helping the viewer, understand much more the idea of my design? And I thought the elevations and the section didn't really difference too much. So I thought it was more or less the same drawing from far away.
Yep.
But in the floor plan, you could actually see kind of like a proposal in towards the site. So I thought it was cool that you highlighted that and you make them bigger. I think I would have done that in the future. Try to eliminate the two elevations and just left the section. So I think that's a pretty cool move. And obviously adding the diagrams, the axonometric diagrams in the bottom, just gave it that nice separation between the renders and the big image, the main image.
Yes, I guess I would also follow your same process of desaturated them. But I tried to stay as close to the original as I could. But overall, like I tried to find like a line here that would align. This is kind of off, not aligned as I wanted, but imagine like this bottom piece, but the image is here. And then also I tried to bring the section along with the plan so that you could read this as one single drawing, referencing yourself with the plans and the sections at the same time. I think this enhances the reader experience in a sense, so that it's more than just a plan, it's a combined set of drawings, what I'm trying to say. And also here, I didn't know what to place it, but I think what we can take out of this redesigning of boards is that usually boards are designed along with the drawings, so that you also have in mind where that drawing is going to be placed, what's the aspect ratio that it has to have. That goes the same thing for plans, sections, and so on, so that it's a construction that comes from the start. And redesigning something, sometimes we cannot transform every single board into an A1, I guess.
Yeah, and don't take any of this to like a must. We're not saying you should do this or the last one was the wrong approach to it. We're just trying to see how else we can represent the same idea in a different way, in different organizational units. So these are 2 different options, but the first one is just as valid as well. So that's it. Okay, so this is part of a series that we are doing with Upstairs on reviewing presentation boards, portfolios, and images. This is the 4th episode that we have done. So if you want to check the other episodes, click on the link down below. There will be a playlist. Also, if you want to submit your images, presentation boards, portfolios, there will also be a link down below. It's totally for free. This episode is sponsored by our courses. We have done a series of courses that can help you represent your projects better, communicate your ideas clearly. And in this occasion, we want to show you our presentation boards course that can help you make better presentation boards, and our diagrams course. It's a course called Isometric Diagrams Masterclass, where you are going to learn 5 different ways of creating diagrams that can help you communicate your ideas clearly. And Oliver takes you through the most simplest and basic diagram that you can do to maybe the most complex one that you didn't know how to do. And obviously you have tons of packs included, and it's a very long, detailed course that you can take. Join the Upstairs community, but you can see all the details in the link down below, or you can go learnupstairs.com/courses. And on the other side, we have presentation boards with InDesign. It's a course that I have designed it is more than 3 hours long, where you learn the basics of InDesign. If you don't know anything about InDesign, no worries. Here we see from the beginner InDesign approach to an intermediate and advanced approach of how to create better presentation boards. We take a look at composition methods, the history behind presentation boards, and how you can improve your presentation boards in different sorts of way, in different sorts of compositions.
Yeah, cool. So both of our courses have a 20% discount coupon available down in the video description. I highly recommend you checking it out. YouTube covers only so much, but then it's over the courses that we can really go in depth and teach you the proper skills to represent and visualize architecture.
Okay, so we received a really good presentation board that we thought it was interesting if we show it here. We didn't actually redesign it, but we just want to share and highlight the best features that we thought you guys should also take into account for your presentation boards.
Yeah, I don't know why this person submitted for a redesign, because honestly, as soon as we opened it, it kind of blew our minds. Like, it's very different from the usual stuff that you're used to seeing. And also the individual drawings, each individual drawing was probably like a masterpiece on itself, honestly.
So this was the presentation board that we were just astonished by, and I just want to take you through each of the sections. I mean, you can see from afar that the text doesn't have that much predominance, so we are not distracted by any text. The majority of it is images into like a very simple and minimal grid. And maybe what impacted us the most is how they paired this site plan up with this section. I mean, this is just, to be honest, it's a work of art when you see all of these floor plans plus the section plus like all the drawings paired into one. If you zoom out, you don't see any actual separation. And I thought this was the part that I liked the most.
Yeah, I think as we mentioned earlier, I think each drawing was created to fit this board. Like, they had in mind that they were going to divide the board in that way, and then add the details on the bottom that was going to be overlaid on the soil, on the ground section there. The section itself of the building was going to be part of that division. Then the site plan comes on top. It's very cohesive. You read this as one single drawing, but then there's three actually combined into one. And even the layout is different from what we're used to seeing. It's more or less like very serious in a sense. Like, there's no artistic approaches here. It's straight to the point. And then you take the space, you take the time to enjoy each drawing before going to the next one. It's very pleasant.
Sometimes this is maybe what you were talking about before, Oliver, about designing your drawings for the presentation board. In that same sense, you would have to design your drawings for your portfolio or for the medium in which you were to present this in. Maybe if you were to create an Instagram post on only one of these images, you couldn't just crop it out. You would have to actually design it, take it into Photoshop, see what you can turn off, turn on. So you can see that this person knew that this, what the proportion, the aspect ratio of these drawings were going to be. And of course, in the actual renders, we have like one half is floor plans, drawings, all mixed into one. And in the other half, we have 5 different renders drawings that show like a sequence, like what is the promenade, what is the sequence of me going into this proposal, and how would I experience it from afar, from arriving there and then actually exiting. So I thought it's a beautiful concept that you can see it portrayed. What maybe I don't like as much is how the text is just super wide and it occupies one column.
If we had to comment on something, that would be but not that this really makes it not valid. Like the sport is 100%, like 10 out of 10. And also I was gonna comment, Steven, because there's no redundant images. I mean, you can see that one is closer than the other. Maybe it's a different point of view, but you can see the building from far away. Yeah. But if you ditch the one, it would be missing. Like, you would feel the need of adding it in again, differently from the last one that we redesigned, where you could take one image or two out and you would be totally fine. And also, even though there's a clear separation between themes and topics here, like technical to one side and renderings, collages to the other, there's also a proper hierarchy. The middle one, the image towards the middle that has an extended sky, has definitely a bigger hierarchy within the group of renderings there. And I think that's really important, because if it was just 6 even squares, I think it wouldn't have the same power as this one has. By the way, all the links will be in the video description for you to check out the boards. I think we have all the links available. Some of them are downloads, so I think we're not gonna make them available, but we'll add the credits, and then you can go find them on Instagram, Behance, or anywhere online, like the online portfolios.
And I imagine like whoever presented this definitely won or got an honorable mention, because this is really
I'm really curious on why would you apply for a redesign? I think he just wanted to show off, probably.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. All right. Okay, so this is the original board that was sent to us, and we thought of making 2 different versions. This was Oliver's, and this was mine. So let's go into Oliver's and let's see how he breaks down his redesign.
Okay, so this is the original board as we just shown you, and the actual project has 4 separate boards. My idea was actually to combine the first and 2 into one, not necessarily to make it better. As you saw, the original one is already pretty good. I wouldn't change
It's really good.
too much, honestly. Not that there's anything wrong, but so to spice things up and mix it up, I thought about combining the first and second. So here's my approach to this solution. It's pretty much the same apart from the bottom section. I maintained the image on the top because I thought that was already setting a good hierarchy within the board and making you dive straight into the actual ambience that this project has. I wouldn't change that. And also, by the way, I think this person nailed, or this team nailed on the titles, the subtitles and actual text information that goes along with each drawing and image. It's hard to see something like that done correctly, and here used there's the use of bold against regular fonts. This is a really neat way to do this. Okay, so then I started working on the bottom section here, and what I thought was really clever on the second board was this section here. This is very simple, very clean, but it has the perfect amount of weight to the lines, to the cut lines. So I thought of extending that because the second board where this section is, it doesn't cover the whole length, the whole width of the board. So I extended so that you can show a little bit more of the city here, the surroundings, the context. And I added this as a base to this board. Then I separated the remaining information into 3 sections actually, like the site plan. Then this was a lot bigger on the first board, and I thought it was just bigger for no reason actually. So I made this the same size, the same width as the text, the column here. And also, again, on the topic of text, you gotta make sure that it feels achievable in terms of reading. Like the person that's looking at your board want to be able to dive into the text. When you have a lot of text on top of each other, it may feel a bit challenging, a bit overwhelming. So if you break down this into multiple pieces, for example here, like even paragraphs or even subsections Blocks? Inside that bigger text, so that it's more digestible, if you will. And I also brought a couple of the diagrams from the other board, so that it had a similarity here. You could also compare one between one of them. And so this is the option 2 and this is the option 1. The difference is just that I rearranged the columns. I don't know which one I like better, but
well, honestly, I like both of them, to be honest, because they're already organized. Both of them work. So I mean, I think what you did was super important, because sometimes we don't need to do drastic changes. The board was already very good, but sometimes it just needs a little bit of organization and trying to ask yourself, where do I want the hierarchy to be? And you're right, maybe that Noli plan was not necessary to be as big as it was before, and just to organize that space into 2 columns that you already kind of insinuated there, but organizing it much more and completing it with the section at the bottom just made it perfect. And of course, leaving some margins all around made it look a little bit more neat and easier to read.
And I really like that. Especially when you mentioned margins, really cool, I felt that the original one didn't have really a line of thought on that. Yeah, like some of them were bigger than the other. The spacing was kind of all over the place, and it felt messy. Although it doesn't have too many elements, it felt a little bit messy, I guess. This is just organizes it, and I think the section on the bottom just just finished with a golden star.
The thing is, I mean, I don't want to, overplug our courses here, but here you can see that the drawings are really, really good. I mean, like the render, the site plans, that your drawings are good does not necessarily mean that your presentation boards are going to be good. You're going to have to put a little bit of extra effort. And sometimes I talk about this in the presentation boards course of the 90-10 rule, that sometimes we just spend 90% of our time inside of our drawings and 10% of our time in our presentation boards, which is kind of like the wrong approach, because at the end, your presentation boards are the ones that are going to communicate the message, the final message. So what I think we should try to do is try to split it up in an even time, in an even amount of time, so we can understand where our drawings are going to be represented. I think this guy took your presentation board, your diagrams.
The diagrams are really well
they're
done.
Really
and I
good.
kind of created a new one here, just from using simple, just because I wanted like a third version of this diagram, so that it didn't repeat. But the base was already done, so now it was just a matter of overlaying different information to tell different stories. You're like highlight different aspects of your project, and here was actually vegetation, like trees that was penetrating the complex, the building complex. I'm eager to see your version, man, because different from me, Steven did all of the 4 boards and redesigned them all, I guess.
Yeah, these were the original boards, which I put them side by side, and I was thinking, of course, of making only one, just like you, but then I thought that with 4 boards that you usually present the university side by side, you have so much information that sometimes you just need to organize it, and I try to overlay like a kind of grid to understand what was going on here, how could it be improved just a little bit more, because again, the drawings, these renders are really good, but I thought it could be improved a lot. So I tried to dissect the general grid, and there was kind of a grid that was beneath it, but they weren't respecting it as much. So there's like a 3 row and column division grid in each presentation board, and here we can see that sometimes the grid is being followed and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes we have this 2 column grid that is respected in these 2 boards, but sometimes here it isn't. So what I did was just try to organize it and tidy it up a little bit more. And of course, with the blocks of text, you can see that here we have a block of text that, as you mentioned, Oliver, when you have it like a very long block of text, no one is going to read it because it just seems too long. And when you dissect it into different parts, it gets easier to read. So I tried to get that, like the first general block of text, and try to copy it in all of the places that there should be text or that there is text, just so we have the same block repeating all over again. And it's like a design element, like a graphic design element that also plays a part in it. So here you see that this has a different width of this one right here, and here it has a totally different width. So what I suggest you should do is have them all in the same kind of block. And finally, to stop talking and reveal my version, this was the final version, which obviously doesn't look that different from afar, but it's just a little bit more organized, where if I have the general grid again overlaid, you can just see that it's all just tidied up a little bit more. So we have this site plan that's just widened up, the render that is just placed a little bit on top.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not about like redesigning everything, it's just like perfecting what's already there.
I mean, I think your idea was super cool of just making this smaller, because it is too big for the
doesn't have much
information
detail
that it provides.
To be that big is as big as the rendering maybe.
So maybe it's not as necessary to leave it as big. And here in the other boards, what I did was just organize this into a whole grid. Sometimes these kind of site plans were rotated, so I just left them vertically. So they just went along with the whole vertical stacking that we have in the whole presentation boards. And here, it was just a matter of organization. So it's kind of hard to see, but if we just turn the normal one on, the original one on, and the other one, you can see the difference. It's just a matter of organizing, trying to ask yourself what is the most important thing that should be bigger or should be smaller. But I didn't erase any images. And what I liked a lot that I kind of copied from yours is that I expanded these sections so they could just cover the whole base of these boards right here and just leave some white space. I think in the original one you didn't have as much white space, and this was just super small.
I see the difference.
So what I did was was just elevated, have all this white space right here, which, you know, people are afraid to leave it white, but come on, man. This is just a breathing room. This is breathing room for the drawings, and people can just center themselves in these drawings, which are really, really good. And that was basically like the whole like gesture of leaving everything.
No, loved it. Honestly, I think the section is my favorite drawing on the sport. It's simple, but it has a lot of contrast within like elements and vegetation, and very clean. And obviously the renderings are really good too. I think one of the biggest mistakes when it comes like to finalizing the board is that people sometimes use the wrong boundaries to create the grid. Maybe that's the issue that happened here. Sometimes you throw the image on InDesign, and then the actual boundary is a little bit further away than the actual limit of the drawing, you know what I mean? So that they use that as a reference, and then things get misaligned. If you look at in InDesign, everything looks aligned because you have the drawing boundary, the InDesign boundary that it generates. But then when you export it, everything seems off. But loved your approach, man.
No, I think both were like had more or less similar points. So I would like kind of take both of the commentary and try to make a better version of it. This was really good, and I think these 3 presentation boards that we saw in this episode are a clear idea of what you can do in your presentation boards, or what general characteristics you have to take into account when creating your presentation boards. Like, are you respecting a grid? Are you trying to prioritize the right kind of information, or you maybe having too many images that are kind of redundant and are not that necessary? But I think the general comment is not that this is a must-have. You don't necessarily have to have a grid, but what you do have to have is try to understand that your presentation board is communicating the principal idea of your project. So if this can be through a main image, through a super divided grid, through any type of composition, but try to communicate the idea in the best way possible. And of course, if graphic design can help you communicate that, then you should also follow it. And of course, I want to also remind you that we have our diagrams course and our presentation boards course available for you guys with a special discount code for you that you will find in the link in the description.
And also don't forget that this is part of a playlist, a series that Steven and I are doing, Show It Better and Upstairs. The first 2 episodes were about portfolio reviews, and then now the 3rd and 4th are about competition boards, and links are going to be down in the video description for you to submit your work. We're going to do image reveals, rendering reveals, diagram reveals. We're doing redesigns, everything. So don't forget to go watch the other videos if you haven't watched yet.
And click on this playlist down below to check the other videos that we have done with Oliver. See you guys in the next video. Bye.